Hello and welcome to this special CNBC Africa program where we are talking about the economic policies of the ActionSA party of South Africa. In under a year, South Africans will be going to the polls to decide who should take the country forward for the next 4 years or so. My name is Godfrey Mutizwa. Welcome. In the studio today, we are hosting the leader of ActionSA, Mr. Herman Mashaba. Mr. Mashaba, thank you for coming through. I was going to say thank you for passing by in the hope that you're going to say you have been actioning and you've been out in the sticks and campaigning, and we have disrupted your campaign. But let's talk about the upcoming elections. Have you started campaigning yet?
Well, thank you very much, Godfrey, and CNBC Africa for this invitation, something that I treasure, and I've not been in your studios in a long time, so I really take this today as a privilege. Yes, absolutely. Campaigning, I started as soon as South Africans gave me the mandate to start this political party. Just to really give you a little bit of background, this political party was started after I resigned as the mayor of the city of Johannesburg. You remember, I served as the mayor of the city of Johannesburg for 3 years instead of 5 years. The reason why I left 2 years ahead of the expiry is because it came to my attention that the DA and the ANC were planning to have a motion of no confidence against me. And my sin was that, firstly from the DA, was that I was providing services to impoverished communities, which they felt it is not their constituency, and taking their residents' money to provide services to people who don't pay tax and they don't work. And for the ANC, because I was fighting corruption, I declared a war against corruption through the facilitation by the Institute of Race Relations. They were planning to have a motion of no confidence to remove this cheeky black. Sure. And because I wasn't born yesterday, came to know about this plans, and decided let me not wait for them to be pushed, and then tendered my resignation.
So very quickly capture for us then what you've been doing in the past 3 years that brings us to this point where now you are gunning for leadership of the country.
Well, what happened is, honestly, I was taken totally by surprise by South Africans when, as soon as I announced my resignation, people literally crying, saying, Herman, please start your own political party. I actually never thought while I was working, because I wasn't doing anything special, I was just really working for people of Johannesburg, that in the process it made an impression not only to people of Johannesburg, the whole country asked me to start a political party. And I didn't know where to start. I then conceived an idea with two of my colleagues, Michael Berman and Andre, because I needed to engage South Africans to see are these real people, and do we share the same values. And that's how then a project called the People's Dialogue was conceived. We ran it for 3 months. 2.4 million South Africans gave us the mandate to start a political party, which we launched on the 29th of August 2020, right in the middle of COVID.
I remember very well. Are you ready?
More than ready. I think if you look at, if we could contest local government elections just a year old, where we could not campaign like we right now with COVID, where the IEC played a major role in our destabilization. They started first by giving us problems with the registration of our political party. A few weeks before the elections, decided to refuse to put our name on the ballot box. But fortunately enough, South Africans gave us the mandate that shocked not only South Africa, shocked the world. Our performance did not only shock the world. And now, the whole of last year, I worked really around the clock to put structures throughout the 9 provinces. Now I've got excellent 9 provincial chairperson with the branch launch everywhere. I mean, just this week, this Saturday, I'll be making history with Khosi Lucas, Khosi Kwena Mangope in Mafikeng. We're launching in one meeting. We're launching 14 branches. Never, the most branches I've ever launched was 8 branches. So 14 branches
Almost
being launched
doubling
in Mafike. That gives you an idea how tired South Africans are with the current
and also
situation.
your state of readiness. So on the 14th, is it the 14th or the 12th?
The 12th,
On
to
the
12th to the 14th of September, we're going to go to our inaugural policy conference, where we are then going to take South Africans into confidence what we stand for as ActionSA, so that when they vote for us, they know what policies ActionSA stands for.
Absolutely. I wanted a little preview. So I was going to ask you, because in the past year, you have also been working hard, canvassing and getting people's views on a set number of principles. There are 7 that you have identified that you have said you stand for. But I wanted to concentrate on the economic cluster. If come next year the elections are held and South Africans put their trust in you and gave you a mandate to rule the country, in terms of economic policy, what can we expect?
Well, you can expect a political party that is going to be for free market economy.
Okay.
Or where
I'm glad you came straight to the point, because I wanted to say geologically what would you be, but you have just
free market economy. I mean politics, because I believe in free market economy. Will be a government that is going to create a conducive environment for all South Africans to really be able to really play the role. We are going to do away with all race-based legislation that has destroyed this country. We are going to judge South Africans on the basis of their merits. We are not going to really judge South Africans by dividing them along racial lines, because by dividing your nation along racial lines, God punishes you. Look at how we've really performed. With our race-based policies, we created oligarchs instead of actually create sustainable businesses. We're discouraging foreign direct investment. We're discouraging South Africans like myself from investing in South Africa because of the level of corruption. So obviously part of driving economic growth and prosperity, you've got to ensure that there's a rule of law, because you can't create prosperity in an environment of chaos. So we need law enforcement agencies, bring back the scorpions as a matter of agency. And actually with more powers, actually it's part of the discussion we are having right now. My personal view is that the head of the new established scorpions must not be appointed by the president, because we want someone who's going to be independent to be able to prosecute without any fear or favor.
Okay. How would you do it then?
Yeah, well, that is what we are now. That is why we are having this round table discussion with various experts. In terms of the rule of law, we invite the policemen and women, judges, lawyers, and so forth to assist us, so that we will need constitutional amendments. Where I'm saying, my personal view is that. We don't want to compromise our law enforcement agencies. We want them to really be independent of political interference, because I honestly believe it is a mistake we made. We based our constitution on Mandela. We did not realize that later on he was going to pass, and criminals have now taken over, and now they are compromising our rule of law and our criminal justice system.
I want to explore the free market philosophy that you identified as the way that your government is going to conduct its business. Markets have been known to not be perfect, and I think we've got many examples in the developed world, in particular your US, your UK, your Europe, etc., where you have found government intervention necessary to counterbalance market forces. What will your approach be? Is it complete free economics, or is it free economics that's going to be managed in some way so you protect the vulnerable and that kind of thing?
Well, I think there's nothing that is totally free. You need government. I mean, you can run a prosperous economy without having government, but government that leaves people alone. What you do, make sure that everyone who runs business legally, they pay the necessary taxes, they don't put money under the mattresses, they don't bring money into the country illegally, people don't steal public monies, you invest in infrastructure, make sure that you've got proper schools, you've got proper hospitals, clinics, infrastructure, public transport system, and so forth. one thing that, Godfrey, I want to make it clear to South Africans, as Action SA, no union, and I want to really be clear,
Sure.
no union will have a veto right on our economic policy. Action SA will not go into a marriage with the unions. We respect unions. They have got a constitutional right to be here. We listen to them, but at the end of the day, they'll never have a veto right on our economic policy. I mean, look at the madness that's happening in our country the last few years. Department of Industry, that is supposed to steer the economy of the country, it's run by communists.
Yeah.
How can you ever develop an economy by people who hate business?
Sure.
Because communists by nature, they hate business, but communists like the benefit of business. I mean, they're the biggest consumers
Yeah.
of business interests,
Yeah.
but they hate business.
Yeah.
So how do you have someone from the Communist Party to run the business? So Action SA, Minister of Trade and Industry, has got to be an experienced businessman who's run and produced business, not really someone who just made money by just going to sign a B deal and you get them as a Minister of Trade and Industry.
It's a point very well made. It's a point very well made. I've made it myself in the past as well. But I wanted to dig a little deeper on the SMME front, because you say here that you see the role of government as creating the conditions for the private sector, especially SMMEs. I want to take you on there, because South Africa, wherever you look, if you are looking at the mines, there are big boys there that have been operating for more than 100 years. You're looking at the retail sector in terms of groceries, you know, they are your big boys, your ShopRites, your Pick n Pays, etc., your Spars. If you take your view from there and you look at the banks, the story is the same. South Africa, I think some economists have said, has got these big players that constrain the ability of SMMEs to grow. What will you do different to enable the growth of SMMEs?
Well, I think you don't have to be Einstein to really figure this one out. I'm a living example of starting small under apartheid when I had no government for me. I had government against me. I started my business with a 30,000 rands loan from a black business guy in a 200-meter factory because I had no government support. That's how I could really use my God-given talent to really be able to navigate. But now, under a new democratic dispensation, we need a government that can ensure that we invest in education, quality education, make sure that public schools are functional, where you don't allow the unions to appoint principals. Make sure that principals of schools are appointed by government. We bring back school inspectors to ensure that teachers actually teach. We focus on maths and science so that these kids can grow up actually being able to really assist economic growth and infrastructure development.
That's going to take a long time and you would not have that much time.
Well, Godfrey, if you want to destroy this country, we must take short-term measures. Okay. And that is what has killed South Africa. That is why we've tended with people who've become so corrupt, because they are looking for overnight success. Yeah. So there is no bullet whatever to get South Africa to turn around things. This is a 20-30 year project I'm talking about. Yeah. But obviously, on a short-term basis, you need the rule of law, you need a fair government, you need to create a professional public service. People who are working in government are professional people, not cadres who are put into those jobs because of who they know. It is because of what they know. Unfortunately, this can be a short-term, what in the townships we grew up calling things double up. No, if you would believe in double ups, unfortunately, that is when you'll get double up, you'll get shortcuts result.
Absolutely.
I think if we're serious about the development of this country, we've got to do it for the next generation.
Right.
But our role, the current generation, is to put the foundation, and then the next group will then put in the next level and so forth. But there's no shortcut, because I can't produce an engineer in a year or in 10 years.
That's
To
true.
produce an engineer, that means the time the child is born,
Yeah.
we can map up that trajectory for him or for her, so that in 25, 26 years down the line, it's an engineer, it's an accountant, and so forth. You can't shortcut those.
Unfortunately, I wish I had more time. But another time, perhaps we'll be able to explore these things, because I wanted to take your take on non-racialism and connect it to the economic story. So we have had black economic empowerment in this country. I think by everybody's account, that has failed. Your approach is to say you want to build a country, and you say there's a strong correlation between race and socio-economic opportunity. And for you, non-racialism does not mean being colorblind. I want to understand what you will do around redressing the issue of the lack of black participation in the economy, while at the same time respecting the principle that you have laid out here.
Yeah, it's exactly what we're saying in the document. What you do as government, don't discriminate people around the racial basis, because no, you don't make up for the past. Two wrongs cannot really make a right. So what you do, allow existing businesses to operate, but make sure that they pay the right taxes. And then when they pay taxes, what you do, you go and build proper schools in Soweto, in Ramotsamaskral, where I was born. Make sure that they get the right medical treatment. Make sure that you provide cheap transport system for them to really be able to really go to school. Make sure that you provide safety for them, so forth. So you cannot really create that without money. So what you do, don't destroy what you've got right now. What you do, actually capitalize. That's what I've always said to people. When I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, when I embarked on the city revitalization program, I said to all my coalition partners who were saying, no, as a city, let's take back these buildings. But they are saying, no, we as a government, we must build ourselves. I had to show them that, guys, we don't have money as a city. We don't have money in the province and national government. What we do, I said, let's exploit what you call this white monopoly capital. Let's actually give them these properties to build affordable accommodation for our people, because once our people live in proper accommodation, they'll go to the right schools. You know, you can exploit what people call white monopoly capital. So you don't really say, because these people exploited us in the past, now you chase them away. What happens if you chase them away? Who pays the price? The poor people. That's why today South Africa, the poor people are poorer than the way pre-1994. 54% of people live below the breadline. I've never seen squalor during the dark days of this country's history, which hurts me and makes me very angry to see people living in conditions that I don't understand how the Human Rights Commission is not interfering. So what to do? Encourage existing businesses to make money, but make sure that they don't put money under mattresses.
They bring the money into the national economy and develop
into the national economy, and you don't steal it as government.
I want to make an interesting analogy. So I watch Formula One. I don't know if you watch Formula One. So what they do with Formula One is before the race begins, they've got these cars form, and they run, and the fastest car is put like a half a meter ahead of the others, and then the next one and the next one and so forth, i.e. in terms of speed, you are ranked. And I am suggesting to you that if you do that, which you appear to be doing, because the guy who's fastest is starting at the front, and I'm taking that guy who's fastest to be the guy who already has the capital and the knowledge in the system to be the white person, you're making it impossible for the black person to catch this guy, because this guy already has a head start. How do you equalize that?
I think, honestly, you don't have to be Einstein to figure this one out. Let's say if you've got an existing business that's making money, employing people, instead of disrupting it. So make sure that you tax them, make them comfortable to come and invest and build more infrastructure, more factories and so forth. And then what you do as government, that's when now the government plays the role to make sure that you go and build the best schools in Soweto, in Haramutse, and so forth, so that the next generation can actually benefit out of this. And you don't have to apologize to anyone about it.
Yeah.
That's the reason why the DA got cross with me, saying, why must I focus the city's resources to poor communities? Because it's part of the redress. I wanted to take people out of poverty, but I need the money. I don't need to go to church. Yes, I have to go. I need God to give me the blessings, but to build people the infrastructure, create opportunities for them, I need money. And how does government get money? Government doesn't make money by printing money. What you do is you create and encourage people, make them comfortable. Let South Africa be a real investment destination.
Trickle-down economics. I hear you have come back to your initial starting point on economic policy. I've got a couple of points more that I need to talk to you about. One is around parastatals. We have seen how these have become dysfunctional as a result of present economic policies pursued by the government. I wanted very quickly a summation of your approach to that. And then we need to talk about South Africa on the continent. What role, what policies do you see in ActionSA government pursuing to integrate with the continent or not to integrate with the continent?
Well, I think we don't have a choice. We cannot separate South Africa from the rest of the world, including the continent. You remember in 1994, the entire African continent and the world look up to South Africa to actually be able to really liberate and integrate our economies. But one thing that you've got to really make it really very clear to everyone that wants to operate with us from foreign policy consideration, we must work with countries that respect human rights. I think it's, for me, that's really very fundamental. We need that. People who obviously respect that we need free market economies. We are not going to work with governments that believe in government, social,
You declare
well, no. Look, they can keep their communist, corrupt, and murderous systems, because that's what communism does. It's control the lives of your subject. Whereas I believe in human rights and respect for other things. And I think South Africa can obviously, we expected it in 1994 when I voted for Nelson Mandela. Sure. And Thabo Mbeki came out, to remember, with that African Renaissance, which he himself eventually destroyed when Robert Mugabe started human rights abuses, and he protected him. Yep. So those are things that when a fellow African leader or anyone in the world there's human rights, we've got to really call upon. We cannot obviously interfere in other countries' affairs, because they are sovereign nations. Yeah. But they must know where we stand as a country. Sure. And regarding SOEs, I can tell you, give me the right tomorrow to really be in charge of this government. I can tell you, I'll pay someone to give them SA Airways. I'll pay someone. What do I need with an airline? For what? For few privileged people.
Would you scrap them? Would you keep them? Are there some that you would take away completely?
SA Airways.
SA Airways.
In fact, I'll pay someone to take it.
Okay.
Because then
you'd give it away.
I'll give it away.
Okay.
Obviously, I'll expect you to keep the brand SA Airways, so that we have South African
national brand. Yes.
Yeah, national brand. But I'll pay someone to take it off. Okay. I wanna.
You're gone.
But the rest, I mean, the PRASA, I think we as government, we owe it to poor people to invest in public transport system. I believe that one is not something that one can entirely leave it to the private sector. If the private sector also wants to really play in that space, they're most welcome to play. But I think government needs to really invest heavily in ensuring that public transport system is as affordable as possible. Yeah. I mean, today, some of our poor people, 60 to 65% of their salaries, mega salaries, actually go towards the transport system. We destroyed our trains. We need to rebuild that. Yeah. And that, unfortunately, there's no private sector which
Would
will
be able to
invest
come in with the kind of capital to
with
put
capital,
that down, yeah.
you know. So that's where you need the government.
So process it.
Yeah,
Wheels.
the process. ESCOM, I'm saying ESCOM, we need government intervention so that we can spread
You
this
would
thing.
not completely privatize and do away with ESCOM?
No, not completely. We'll run it, but it must run on commercial basis. But at the same time, we allow the private the companies to compete with it. Because in the space of energy, there's an opportunity for the private sector actually to ensure that they can compete with ESCOM. And if ESCOM cannot compete on commercial basis, then let it die a natural death. But we can't, unfortunately, really looking at the electrification and energy requirements of South Africa, leave it to the private sector overnight. Unfortunately, we need government, but ESCOM must be run by professional people, not by cadres who have never, they don't even know how to put in a bulb in their own homes. They've never produced anything in their lives. So you put in professional people to really run it, and they run it along commercial lines, and allow encourage private sector investment and see if one day ESCOM can die a natural death if they are unable to compete.
Absolutely. Final comment, and I wanted to know if there's any other parastatal you would kill, and then in addition to that, I wanted to know if you take South Africa out of the BRICS if you became president.
Well, as far as to me as Herman Mashaba, BRICS is a liability to South Africa. Belonging to BRICS, it's a liability. I cannot really see any benefit whatsoever for South Africa to be part of BRICS, but that does not mean that we kite trading arrangements with the countries that are currently within BRICS. But there is no way under ActionSA. We are going to debate this matter, and I'm quite confident our policy position is that saying to South Africans, this BRICS story it's a liability to us. We need to be neutral with all governments everywhere in the world. Let them come and invest here in South Africa. I cannot really see what Russia can add to South Africa. Russia is a liability to South Africa. So why must I associate myself with Russia? But the decision will be taken by our delegates. But already I can tell you how I'm voting. Yeah, my input. I'm going to be pushing that, and ActionSA's will decide. And I'll prove to them that Russia, it's a liability to South Africa.
Herman Mashaba, President, ActionSA, thank you for coming through and chatting to us today. No other parastatal needs to be scared that you might kill them?
No, I think the only one that honestly I'll start with. Honestly, I'll not even sell. We'll have to really work out the debt so that we give you a debt free, and then we'll see if you can make money. And then because it will be a once-off payment exercise, then we as government can focus on running the country and providing services and educating our nation, so that 30 years down the line, South Africans are going to be a sovereign, proud nation.
30 years down the line, you'll write a book, retire to your village, and live happily ever after. Mr. Mashaba, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Godfrey.
Thank you.
CNBC Africa for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Most welcome.